Succeeding in Airbnb is not hard to do in 2024, even though everybody is saying that it's going to be impossible. Today, we're going to be going through a list of 13 tips for the new short-term rental hosts to ensure that you succeed in your new career. Tip number 1, make your short-term rentals stand out. Let's face it, guests are going to have a ton of choices out there when it comes to picking a place to stay. In the very beginning of setting up, we always think about the importance of standing out in the crowd. The best way to do this is by using attractive design choices, like pops of color and cozy gathering areas. Functional layouts are also important. We want guests to imagine themselves walking through the spaces with ease and comfort. Large open spaces free of clutter help to convey a feeling of organization and simplicity, which makes our Airbnb seem even more enticing. Tip number 2. Hire a photographer. The trick to getting the pictures of your listing to come out looking clean and professional is to not use your smartphone's camera, like ever. The world of short-term rentals is maturing, and professional photos are a must. The best part about professional photos is that they do a great job of showcasing your listing in the best light. Make sure that you're paying close attention to the angles in the pictures, and be sure that each room is shown from multiple angles. This helps guests visualize themselves at your place moving in and about the rooms. Also, color is a great tool. Use it strategically throughout your photos to stand out and draw attention. Finally, include photos of nearby attractions. This is a huge help for guests who don't know all there is to do in your neighborhood. These things really add to the guest experience and help them envision their trip before they even arrive. Tip number 3. Pay attention to the property descriptions. Keep your listing descriptions simple and easy to read. Don't use big words that are confusing or uncommon. Point out the great things about the listing and consider highlighting a few of those standout amenities as well. If you've got a hot tub, call it out. Got a pool for guests? Mention it and show pictures. To make this even easier, consider using AI. AI is really making everything easier these days. Use platforms like ChatGPT to develop your listing description. The best thing about most of the AI platforms is that they are really fast, very easy to use, and usually free. Tip number 4, add a surprise. One thing that you can do to really make your listing stand out is adding a surprise. Nothing huge, but just something that shows that you care. We do this often by including items in listings that guests really don't expect. One example is leaving out bottled waters on warmer days. It's a pretty small gesture that goes a long way in showing that we care about the comfort of our guests. Tip number 5, keep the property realistic. On picture day, everything in the home should look neat and tidy. All the linens should be folded neatly and pillows placed upright and orderly. One thing that I see hosts struggle with is using over-edited photos. Before guests arrive at the home, the only thing they really can use to visualize your listing are the advertised photos. The worst thing to do for your guests is overpromise and underdeliver. When editing photos, if you need to make changes, only use realistic colors and subtle lighting touch-ups, if any. Don't remove, cover up, or edit out any features in the home. The last thing you want to do is let down your guests, so literally just keep it real. Tip number 6, never leave customers waiting for a reply. Have you ever gotten a text message and been left on read? It's a pain and completely sucks. And guess what? Guests feel the same way when hosts take forever to respond. It leaves them feeling like they've booked with a host who doesn't know how to provide customer service. Rental platforms like Airbnb also think slow responses suck. In fact, they rate hosts on how quickly they can respond to guests' inquiries and messages. But one of the best ways to ensure guests get a speedy response is to use automation. Hospitable is a great example of a service that provides automated messaging support. It uses automation to provide immediate, customizable responses to guests, which ensures that guests aren't waiting for extended periods of time for responses. It also ensures that the rental platforms aren't dinging you from leaving guests on read, so it's definitely worth your time to set it up and ensure that your guests are being served in a timely manner. Tip number 7, handle guest inquiries quickly and professionally. In handling guest inquiries and requests, always lead with customer service in mind. Let's face it, if you're a host, you're in the service industry and hospitality business before anything else. This should ring true for every interaction you have with guests. Even if the guest isn't super friendly or seems a bit demanding, don't respond with frustration or negativity. Also, don't assume the tone of any guest outreach. Most of the communication with guests is done via texting, which makes it easy to misinterpret tone. Just make it a standard to lead with professionalism and customer service with every single engagement, and you'll be good to go. Tip number 8, maintain a positive guest relationship. First, spend time listening to what your guests are telling you. It's easy to jump in and make assumptions if you don't have all the information. Doing this is also the easiest way to make a happy guest frustrated or even upset. Sometimes things aren't perfect. If a guest comes to you with concerns, be thankful that they are coming to you and giving you an opportunity to correct it. Once you've heard their concerns, apologize for any issue or confusion. An apology isn't admitting fault, but it shows empathy, which guests really appreciate. It also lets them know that you care about their complete experience with you. Then, provide options to correct the situation or clear up the confusion. Practicing this style of engagement is a critical part of maintaining a positive relationship with guests. Hey, by the way, if you're finding this video helpful so far, then make sure you subscribe so we can keep making more videos to help you out. But keep watching, because the next 5 tips are going to be what really take your business to the next level. Tip number 9, use automated messaging. Automation is a big part of keeping operations smooth. Nearly 90% of our communications to guests are done via automated messaging. This works great for the majority of communications. Check-in instructions, house rules, and even Wi-Fi information can all be automated with the flip of a switch. But every now and then, there's an oddball question from a guest that requires a real person to jump in with a more personal response. No ma'am, unfortunately at this time, we cannot allow your pet rhino inside the bungalow. Thank you for asking. Tip number 10, manage guest expectations ahead of time. Communication should be happening before your guests arrive. As a professional host, you should already understand your guests' experience and anticipate information they'll need in advance of arrival. Things like driving directions, especially if the route to the listing is challenging, check-in instructions, as well as Wi-Fi information should all be provided in advance of a guest's arrival. Do yourself a favor and proactively prevent frustration and minimize confusion as much as possible. It will save both you and your guests time and protect you from a crappy experience. Tip number 11, clean. Hey, I've said this before, cleaning is super important. In many cases, there's just a small amount of time between guest stays to get things in order. So having a standard cleaning system in place is critical. Every surface area should be dusted, cleaned, and sanitized every single time. All the linen should be laundered and beds put back in perfect order, just like the listing's pictures depict. No dirty dishes, no dirty surfaces, anywhere. To ensure that your cleaners are doing the jobs effectively, quarterly quality checks are also critical. Build up over time is really easy to miss if someone's not looking for it. So be the separate eyes and ears that your cleaning team needs. And if you can't be the one, hire someone else to do it for you. It's just gotta be done. Tip number 12, incorporate guest feedback. Sometimes incorporating guest feedback can be a bit of a painful process, but you should always take the feedback from guests, review it, and then see what makes sense to implement. If it doesn't cost a lot, call it an easy win. If there's a significant cost associated with implementing the feedback, determine how impactful it is to the guest or team experience overall. Then prioritize it accordingly. This simple process ensures that you're getting the most out of your properties and serving guests without flushing your money down the drain. And lastly, tip number 13. Check your work. It's not enough to let the cleaning team take care of the cleaning and not check up on their work. People are people, and sometimes we miss things without even realizing it. A fresh set of eyes helps to ensure that even the little mistakes or missed details are accounted for. If you implement all of the things you've learned in this video, you're guaranteed to be better off than you would be without them. Even though most of them sound like common sense, you'd be surprised how many people miss out on doing them. Common sense ain't common. But sometimes common sense isn't enough anyways. Sometimes you need to make a choice on where to put your rental listing. So what do you do then? How do you choose the best platform for it to ensure that you get bookings? Are there trade secrets that you can use to make it easier? Well, you can learn all about that and more by clicking the video on the screen and subscribing.